So let's talk about coping with change. How do we survive changes? How do we live through and navigate change? What do we do to develop some good change resilience? So first, understanding that stress and change are best friends, right? You won't see one without the other. Even if the changes are good changes, it still will be accompanied with some level of stress. So in our world, we call it eustress versus distress, right? But they're best friends nevertheless. You can almost always guarantee you'll have stress of some level with any type of change. So we have to get better at managing stress on a regular basis, right? So being more proactive, recognizing that it's there, and just planning out our ability to cope a little bit better, so that we're not always responding to changes, that we have already established a strong emotional and physically healthy foundation for us to handle the things that life is throwing at us, right? So that looks like, am I really getting enough rest on a regular basis? Am I balancing the things on my plate? Am I making sure that I don't have too many projects, that I'm trying to balance at the same time, that I'm learning to be comfortable saying no when I need to say no. I'm learning to ask for what it is that I need, right? So that we have we're proactively establishing a foundation where we feel healthy enough to respond to change. You want to get in front of your life, right? So instead of having this life where, life is happening to you, you want to be happening to life, right? I want to be in front of what's happening to me, so that I'm not catching things that are thrown at me, that I'm actually the one throwing things out there, right? That I have a good control of things that are happening in my life. Every so often, take some time to check in with yourself. Take some time to think about, wow, okay, it's been 3 months. What kind of changes have I been through in the last 3 months? And what can I take from the changes that I've gone through in the last 3 months that I can take with me to help be stronger when I encounter change in the future? A lot of times we're just moving and going, and we aren't really being intentional about building change resilience. Every change you go through should be an opportunity for you to learn what will work for you and what won't, right? And you want to keep adding those tools in your toolbox so that you know how to continue to grow. So for example, a lot of folks are going through job changes right now, right? And this is an opportunity to learn about the relationship that you might have with your job or your career. Some people are finding that, so much of my job was connected to my identity, maybe too connected to my identity. And what do I want that to look like in the future, right? Maybe you learned that I was too dependent on routine in my job. And that is not helpful to me in terms of developing change resilience. Maybe I want to learn to be a little more spontaneous and flexible in the way that I work. So taking jewels from each of these change experiences and putting those back into your toolbox to develop change resilience. You also want to check in and ask yourself, what changes do I want to make? So this is, happening to life instead of just letting life happen to me. I don't want to have the type of life where changes are just happening and I don't feel like I'm in control of anything. What kind of changes do I want to be purposeful about? And am I creating enough space to make those things happen? Now, if I find that things happening to me versus me happening to life, if there's an imbalance there, that's an opportunity for me to do some shifting and rebalancing, because I certainly want to feel like I am more in control of my life, than life happening to me. We also want to find some humor in change. Anytime that we have the opportunity to laugh about things that are happening in the world around us, you want to do that. Humor is good for the soul. It's healing. With the mask mandate, I am just loving the creativity in masks, some with our logos and mascots, our favorite quotes, pictures. And that's another way of sort of having fun with things that we can't change, right? One of my favorite jokes, so I love the memes too. There are a lot of good memes out there, so I'm just going to share a couple. But one of my favorites is, if you need 144 rolls of toilet paper for a 14-day quarantine, you probably should have seen a doctor much sooner. Another one of my favorite jokes. So as we had to quarantine, we were spending more time with our families because we're in our routine normally, right? We're going to work, we're taking kids to daycare, picking them up from school. We have all of these, our autopilot, right? So one of my other favorite jokes is, I found a young lady sitting on my couch yesterday. Apparently she's my wife. She seems nice. We were discovering a lot about our partners and relationships and our kids because we had to spend a lot of time together. I want to talk about grounding and self-validation as a great way to cope with change. Grounding is really another way of saying being present and reminding yourself that you are here right now. And we become so future focused that we aren't spending enough time in the present moment, right? And that's really the source of anxiety. Anxiety is worrying about something that hasn't happened yet. And so if we can ground ourselves in the here and now, it could be very impactful and be healthy to our emotional health. So grounding is really just saying, right now, I am here, I am safe, right? So it takes you away from when you allow your thoughts to board the train, right? And what happens if this happens, and what happens if that happens, right? And our thoughts board the train, and before you know it, we're non-existent, or we're dead, or we're unsafe. And so to prevent our thoughts from boarding the train, ground yourself and say, right now, I am here and I am okay. We also want to learn to use self-validation. Too often we're relying on other people to tell us that we're okay, right? I want to hear from you that I'm fine. What do you think about this? The question is, what do you think about where you are? And being okay with saying, I'm good, right? Even if I'm not good, I'm good. But using some self-validation tools and just picking yourself up can really be helpful. Feel it all. So we want to avoid feelings. We want to avoid being vulnerable. We really want to avoid any of those vulnerable emotions like fear and discomfort, but feel it all. One of the best ways to cope is to go through your pain, not around it, not over it, not under it, but directly through your emotional experience. So allow yourself to feel all of the emotions, even if the emotion is, I feel numb. That's still an emotional experience. So take the time to feel everything that you're feeling. There's a lot to be said about the quote, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. This quote is about really having the wisdom to discern changes that you do have control over and changes that you don't. Now, for the changes that you don't have control over, you most certainly could spend time and energy in focusing on those things that are happening externally, right? The things around you. But I'm not sure that that's going to be the best use of your time or your energy. After discerning the things that you cannot change, where you do have power is in your perspective. Be intentional about developing a perspective that gives you peace and allows you to be in control of your experiences. People can change many things in your external environment, but they cannot control your mind. You have the power to control your mind. Thank you.